Hey everyone, my name's Sam, and we are here for Career Journeys today with Bloch alumni. Today I'm sitting with Lynnette. She's a veteran at Garmin, Director of Human Resources, and we're going to be talking about her journey from the Bloch School all the way to the upper echelons of one of Kansas City's best companies. So we're first going to start out by introducing you and your current role. So tell me a little bit about yourself, tell me about your journey, and a little bit about your role and your daily responsibilities at Garmin.
Yeah, my name is Lynnette Huscher, and I currently work for Garmin International as HR director. Um, Myself and my team, we handle all talent acquisition, associate relations, relocation, and immigration at Garmin for all of the Americas.
That's amazing. So what do you love most about your role? Specifically, tell me a little bit about some of the inner workings of what you get to do with you and your team.
Yeah.
But what brings you most joy in your role?
Well, I think what brings me the most joy is really watching someone start out as a new grad and just completely develop professionally throughout the years to leadership and watching their career journey. It just gives me so much joy to see that.
Yeah, and what about the evolution from when you first started at Garmin, and then like getting up into this position, you got a chance to see it from the first step to then now you get to help drive the new talent in through the door.
Yes. I started as a recruiter at Garmin, and then an opportunity came up to be what was called an HR generalist, a human resources generalist that also oversees associate relations or handles associate relations for the company. When the opportunity for leadership came up, I didn't think about applying, but my boss came and said, I think you would be awesome at doing this. And I had previous leadership experience in a local department store here, and so I took the opportunity, and it's just blossomed from there.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the common thread, right? A lot of times leaders don't necessarily know they're ready, and then someone's like, "Oh, no, you're
Yeah.
definitely ready for this role." So tell me about kind of the progression, your career journey. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was it like starting out day one at Garmin? You've been there for almost 2 decades now. You've obviously liked your time there. So tell me a little bit about that journey from the first day that you started there to where you are now, and how you kind of progress through every stage there. Because a lot of times, as you mentioned, you may not always feel ready for the next step, but you've obviously taken a lot of steps to get to a higher up position there. So tell me about kind of that first step through the door at Garmin and how that led to where you are today.
Well, the first step at Garmin was recruiting. I started in 2007. Garmin was a small company at the time. Believe it or not, I think we were 1,500 people here in the US, and now we're over 7,000 and
Wow.
20,000 globally. It was a lot of hours, a lot of recruiting. I remember having requisitions where I would have thousands of candidates in it and going through those, making sure we're finding the right talent or I'm finding the right talent for Garmin. Going from there, having the opportunity to get into associate relations. I'd done some associate relations before in a prior human resources role, and I took that opportunity and made the most of it. And I always took opportunities. Anytime someone says, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this. Are you interested in doing this?" I always say yes
Mm.
because I want to have develop my skill set, give myself more opportunities, as well as diversify my skill set as well. And when the recession hit back in 2009, we weren't doing a lot of recruiting. So I took the opportunity to go work in finance for a
Mm.
year. And I learned so much there. And it helped me in my career now as a director of human resources. So always take opportunities and make the most of them.
So for folks that, are constantly looking for new opportunities and trying to make themselves into, a really well organized and well curated product for the professional world coming out of college, what's the best way or some advice you would give when someone's trying to present those opportunities in a piece of paper, right? So sometimes obviously as you said, you're recruiting a lot of folks. So, a lot of people have different extracurriculars and opportunities
Yes.
they've done outside of school, but how do you find some of the most successful candidates have actually positioned that forward so that people knew that they did that and that it was a value add to them?
Yes. I would say keep your mind open on opportunities. I never thought that I would be in human resources. My first job out of the Bloch School of Business here was managing a as a manager in a local department store, but I learned so much about profit and loss and running a successful business, and that helped me transition my career into human resources. When it was time to look to do something else, I sat down and I wrote out what I liked about my job, my current job as a department manager or merchandising manager. And a lot of it was on the people side. And I truly believe that whatever you're passionate about, it's going to be a natural fit for you and you're going to do a good job with it. So when I was a manager, I loved recruiting. I loved helping my team develop and progress in their career. And that is what HR is all about.
Well, and what do when you're working with some up and comers or even people that are just, in their careers deep, but they're, transitioning to different roles, what are some of the pieces of advice you can give for skill transition specifically? Because you mentioned learning about a P&L when you're at a department store, but I think a lot of people struggle, especially entrepreneurs or people in the business world, struggle to kind of create those analogous connections from, oh, I worked at my mom and pop's, gas station, or I worked in a nonprofit. And I think that was one big success factor for myself and my colleagues. But how do you coach people to understand how to take all that life is giving them and actually transition those skills into different, aptitudes?
Yeah. I would say knowing what you want to do and what you're passionate about and being able to succinctly communicate what you want to do, asking a lot of questions and being curious about business. It just helps understand what the job is and whether, you will be good at that.
Yeah. Well, and so one of the things that we wanted to talk about was kind of making an impact, right? So Garmin's obviously had a major impact in the city and globally as a brand. By the way, 1,500 seems maybe small, but that's pretty hefty team. But when it comes to making an impact, you have a direct line on that impact through the HR department. So can you tell me maybe one story or some of the examples that you've seen of how you and your department have been able to actually effectuate change inside your organization, whether it's through recruiting, different initiatives, different, programs internally, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, right now we are in the process of doing our associate engagement survey. Garmin was recently awarded the Forbes #1 employer in Kansas. We were the #2 uh, large employer for the United States last year. So we're doing a lot of great things there. And one of the things is listening to your associates. So we are in the process of conducting our associate engagement survey. We do one every 2 years. We take feedback from our associates and take what we can and incorporate that into uh, ensuring that we have a conducive work environment that supports retention of associates. Associates aren't going to leave companies that they feel that they belong in and that they're excited to come to work every day. One of the other things too at Garmin, we have 5 different business segments. So we try to hire associates that are passionate about one of our segments. So for example, if they fish, we will hire them to work the marine segment. If they're into fitness, we'll hire them in fitness. If they love aviation, we'll hire them, in our aviation division. So if you pair passion, with the people, it makes a huge difference in the workplace.
Yeah, well, I love that you touch on that. I think it's the cliche that we all know is true, but it's hard to like really actualize in real life, especially in a large corporation. So I think that's really, super awesome that you all are able to do that because when you align people with what they love, they end up doing a better job and they enjoy it more, right? Than doing something that they wouldn't. So what are some of the skills and mindsets that you think have been really successful for you in your position, whether that's principles, guiding things that, your parents taught you? What are some of those things that really help push you forward in your role?
I think number one, if I were to say one thing, it would be resilience. You have to be resilient in the business world. Things aren't always going to go as planned. Things may happen that you wish that they didn't, but you have to, just keep going forward and focusing on, how to solve that problem and learning from it and moving forward in the future.
Mhm. And how do you grapple with, resiliency is as a concept, I think makes sense to a lot of us, but, as an abstract concept, but when we are faced with it in reality, failure feels like the end of the road. So what are some of the, mechanisms you use to actually break through some of those barriers when you're seeing like, oh no, I have to completely switch roles or, I have to completely rework who I thought I was to be in this role. How do you find the strength internally for you to like really go up to that challenge and take that with stride?
Yeah, I have I put I always go back to our strategy. Number one, if I start feeling overwhelmed or things aren't going as planned, I always go back to my strategy, my HR or our HR strategy, and say, is what I'm doing benefiting our HR strategy? We also all have positive statements in our office, having a can-do attitude. We can solve this problem. Tomorrow will be different. It just helps keep you focused on the right things.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, talk to me about why you decided on this career path. There's a lot of different career paths available to Block students, and I think at some point that does commit, create those conditions where you're not sure which way to go because you have so many options. So, what kind of drove you in the direction you went? And tell me a little bit about, how that evolution went from the day that you were like, I'm going to go into this position, and then getting into your role as director of HR.
Well, when I graduated, or actually when I started at the Block School of Business, I thought I was going to be an accountant. I just had thought that was going to be it. That was what I completely focused on. And then I took tax accounting. And tax accounting made me think maybe I should be doing something else because I don't see myself doing tax accounting for the
Right.
rest of my life. So I ended up majoring in business because I thought that degree would be versatile and I could take it into any career path that I wanted to. And as I mentioned earlier, I managed a department store that made me demonstrate a lot of skills and competencies that I learned here in the Block School of Business. And everything that gave me the most joy and passion and satisfaction in my role was working with my team, hiring my team, developing my team, preparing them for leadership. And that really is what HR is all about. And so when I decided to make a career change into human resources, I started working with my network and ended up transitioning